Hey everybody, it's Bust with Battles with Bust number 107, maybe 106, 108, somewhere in there. But today we'll be doing battle in the Gauntlet. And so, in our previous Gauntlet video, I started to kind of talk about the concept of the long tail. And this is kind of the thing to where you expect the kind of common things to cluster together in a big event, and then the tail is going to be the less common things and how frequently those show up. You can get you kind of an easy to pull up picture of it. I did this sweet Bing search for the long tail, and this is kind of exactly what we're talking about here. This picture is looking at things for what looks to be internet searches. The most common ones are stacked up very heavily over here to the left. The less common ones have this very long tail down here to the end. Now, if you want to just kind of flip this and start thinking about it in terms of card gaming and the Legends of Runeterra, what we would kind of expect is that the most common 2 or 3 decks are really stacked up over here to the left of the image, right? We would have really, really common decks like Annie Twisted Fate being the most common one now, and there would be like 2 or 3 or 4 of these really, really common decks, and then the off-meta things are going to be towards the right side of this image, to where they just don't show up with very much frequency, but there might be a bunch of them. And this is what I'm usually pretty used to, at least in the terms of playing Magic and playing Hearthstone. I did do a bit of cursory searching in the terms of Magic, and that seems to be what is happening out here today. In the terms of, at least what it says the standard metagame is, I assume that this MTG Goldfish stuff is fairly accurate, but the most common deck in the Magic standard metagame occupies 21% of the meta. There's another deck down here that looks pretty similar to the actual first place deck, so that gets it up to roughly 25%. And the same thing with my knowledge of Magic assumes that this second one is pretty similar, to where you have the Boros aggro at 14%. Mono white could probably be rolled up into that. And so with the 2 most common decks, that should account for roughly like 40-45% of the meta. But if you want to swing over to Balco's site, that's at the lor-meta.com. You can see that's just not how it works with the Legends of Runeterra, which has been mind-blowingly odd to me. Right? If we sort this by the most common decks, Annie Twisted Fate is the most common one with about a 7% play rate. Azir Irelia is the next most common one at about 6%. And then the next most 2 would be Ari Bard and Annie Jen at 4%. And that has just been completely wild and insane to me. I have no idea why the Legends of Runeterra functions like this. I don't know if it's just because the game's so new that the information doesn't disseminate as fast as it would in something like Magic. I don't know if it's just because the volume of highly competitive players just doesn't exist in this game yet. I'm not exactly sure what the idea here as to why this is actually happening, but it is happening. And that's, good or bad. Take it however you want. I see the arguments for both sides, the good side kind of being that you don't have to play against the same decks over and over again. The bad side being that you don't really have ways to counter the meta. And my kind of like research into this a little bit more, I did want to take a peek at the last seasonals. I knew that Legna put together a pretty outstanding report on the previous seasonals meta. I think his is llor-data.com. I just look up Legna on Twitter. It's easier to find that way for me. But the most common deck in the previous seasonals was Yuumi Pantheon, which showed up in about 25% of the decks, and then the next most common one would have been, I believe it was Taliyah Ziggs, showing up at around like 22%. And so those numbers are like a little bit more in line with what we would kind of expect, but you do have to realize that you're bringing 3 decks into the format here, and so I would expect the most common deck to be appearing in like 40 or 50% of the lineups, at least a third. I would just expect it to be much higher than 25% if we're, say, looking at a game like Magic, to where in a ladder meta, the most common deck is showing up a quarter of the time. If you get to bring 3 decks to a Magic meta, then that most common deck should show up just with a much more frequency. And so it's been very interesting to me in terms of how we then convert this kind of knowledge over into a best of 3 lineup. And that kind of brings us as to what we're going to be dealing with today. Today we are focusing on just the top end, the head of the curve, if you will. And this kind of came about with our previous video where I don't have the statistics pulled up for Fizz Ribbon, but Fizz Ribbon is one of the decks that we've been doing a lot of battles with over the past few weeks in the Gauntlet. At the beginning of the season, it just had a gigantically great matchup table the whole way, but now it has a matchup table to where the top end of the meta is pretty even to slightly bad, but then the tail end of the curve is extremely, extremely good. And I'm curious as to how we really take advantage of this in Runeterra, as to where the top end of the curve just doesn't show up very much. And so the lineup that we're bringing today, this is something that would look pretty good in terms of taking to a Magic tournament, right? We have a lineup that is extremely good against the most common deck in the format, up here against Annie Twisted Fate. The thing that I suspect you're going to see the most of in competitive formats are the various flavors of Vizoe Aphelios, whether or not that's Vizoe Aphelios or Aphelios Victor, however people are going about it. They're all pretty similar in that they're generating a ton of value and winning the game with the Winding Light. Both of these decks are extremely good matchups for our entirety of our lineup. And then the same kind of applies to the competitive wild card in Nami Twisted Fate. This is something that the big brains of the world like to battle with because it has a lot of really weird play patterns, but you don't see too much in the latter because it's a very odd deck to be taking to battle. But, the downside of having all of these is you do have this kind of band of really bad matchups up here between Azir Irelia tokens, Ari Bard, and Annie Jen. But what I kind of feel like with this style of game here is Annie overlaps with so many decks. We aren't super likely to be running into Annie Jen. I can't remember the last time I even played against Annie Jen in the Masters meta, but Ari Bard and Azir Irelia are going to be real problems. But we get to ban something, right? And so depending on what our opponent's lineup looks like, we should potentially be able to ban one of these top decks that are just really bad matchups. And so the next kind of piece of that is how bad is it if, say, opponent has like a lineup that has both Azir Irelia and Ari Bard, then, the matchups aren't great, but we could potentially take down Ari Bard. But then the next question is, what if they only have one of these decks or zero of these decks? Then it starts to look pretty good as long as they're clustered up into these top decks. And so that's where it gets kind of odd. I have a feeling that this is something we may be able to pull off in like a tournament or in seasonals, but as we jump into the Gauntlet and face off a lot of very off-meta decks, I don't think this strategy is going to pan out as well as we want. Because as we were kind of talking with the likes of Fizz Ribbon, it plays very well into a very wide and varied meta. But if we take a look at something like Ramp Aurelion Soul, over here, just the majority of these matchups are actual just garbage. It looks like there's 2 matchups here. What do we got? A total of 5 matchups that could be slightly positive compared to maybe like 10 or 12 or so that are just completely horrifically bad. This isn't like a taking a 55-45 matchup in here. This is where it's losing like 75% of the time against the Hecarim decks and just running into a real struggle. And so at any rate, I think this is something that we really kind of need to take more thought of in terms of Runeterra and the lineups that we bring. I'm kind of more so in the camp of really liking the Fizz Ribbon. Things are pretty good against everything kind of matchups, as opposed to having these lineups to where we're really trying to target 2 or 3 decks, right? If we cycle back to that kind of concept of Yuumi Pantheon in the previous meta, if you need to go 8-1 in seasonals, you target Yuumi Pantheon, and you things go good. You even say you play against it half the time instead of 25% of the time. That's still not like really enough to push you up into that high win rate, just on the kind of basis of targeting good matchups. And so I think it's kind of interesting. I'm still in the camp again of just being in having roughly good matchups across the board, as opposed to trying to pick up these polarized matchups. But today we're going to try and spike these polarized matchups and see how things go in the Gauntlet. And so, again, we're going to be doing battle with a bunch of Blighted Ravine decks. We're playing Tryndamere Feel the Rush, we're playing Taliyah Lissandra, and then we'll be playing Ramp Aurelion Soul. And so in terms of our deck list, they are fairly straightforward. We're bringing the same Tryndamere list that we brought in the previous video. Nothing too out of the ordinary here besides perhaps playing a copy of the box. On to the way with our Taliyah Lissandra. We're going all in on churning out the Frozen Thralls. This is just a real Turbo Thralls version of this. We're playing the full amount of Clockwork Curator, Harbinger of Thralls, Imagined Possibilities, Sands of Time, and Time in a Bottle. So just all of the countdown reduction cards are in here, along with the full collection of Promising Futures. The last deck that we're bringing to the party is the Aurelion Soul Feel the Rush deck, the Targon's Peak deck, if you will. As far as this deck goes, I am playing the full ramp package, right? We're intending on just kind of dodging and not really playing against any of the big aggro decks of the format. And so I feel a little bit more comfortable saying that, okay, if we're going to be playing against a lot of mid-rangey, control-y kind of decks, to actually come out and bring the Weirding Stones. And so it gives us a little bit of a backup plan. In the event that we don't draw Targon's Peak, we may be able to double up or triple up on our ramp and get our big spells down just a little bit faster. And so that is the list. That is what we're bringing to the Gauntlet today. You all know what we do before we jump into battle, though. We do have to pay the pay-to-win price. And so today, we're going to be paying the price on the box. Another one that I'm really surprised we haven't turned premium yet, given that we played so much Expedition and this has been in the format for so long, but it never got there. I'm not completely surprised we didn't play tons of Shadow Isles and Expedition. Everyone knows I am a lover of the Noxus, and so it's not that surprising it turned out that way. All right, interesting. All of our favorited decks are just at the top of the list. It didn't work like that in our few previous versions, and it's not like a new patch came out since then, so that's very odd. But I appreciate it. Much easier to not have to go and search out all of the decks. Okay. Let's see who turns up here. See if we can't ruin anyone's prime glories for the week. I'm short one. I know that I had 1 week where I was out of town and I didn't get to play, and then I got weirded out. And another week it was like I started off a video and I didn't like how it started, and so I just restarted the whole thing. And then we ended up missing out on that first thing, and so we're gonna have to actually play 2 matches to try and get the seasonal's berth without Masters rank. And so here, coming into these deck lists, I'm going to leave this Viego Shurima deck up. I have no problems with it. The Galio Bard and the Azir Sundisk decks aren't that spectacular. I don't know if Bard is still even showing up on this thing. Where is it at? Just the Jarvan Poppy Bard, which is pretty bad. And so I'm just going to hope and pray against the Sundisk a bit. I figure people will likely come out and just ban our Trundle Feel the Rush deck every time. And so at least against the Sundisk, the other matchups there are pretty decent, right? Tryndamere isn't that great. Lissandra Taliyah is a bit of a coin flip. The ramp deck has a bit of an advantage. So let's get this mid-rangey Galio deck out. He bans bans the Trundle deck as suspected, and then let's just try and play Taliyah Lissandra twice. I don't think the Viego deck even shows up on the meta report even more. Our screen has gotten messed up a little bit. He's pretty much fallen off the face of the planet with the drop of the Legion Deserter, but this deck should be fairly similar to Thresh Nasus, which is a fairly decent matchup for all of our decks. So here, let's go ahead and hang on to the single Frozen Thrall, and then we'll just dig for some more of the kind of early 2-droppy style ramp cards. Didn't quite find them, but that's okay. Like I don't want to be super all in on this single Frozen Thrall, since this deck does tend to play a bit of Vengeances. But now that we've picked up the Promising Future, we should be all set to try and just churn this thing out and really focus in on the Thrall. You know how to prepare. The most preparations from the aspiring Chronomancer. Okay. Curator works. We still have plenty of time to get this stuff going. Next turn we can drop the Promising Future. Then we can even copy the Frozen Thrall with the Taliyah if we want. We're pretty on board here with just churning through all of these Thralls. Sure. Looking pretty good. Oh, change your mind? I didn't. I'm bringing in the Thrall. We're going to bring in the Taliyah. We can churn out 4 Thralls next turn, assuming he doesn't do something too odd. That's unfortunate, but not the end of the world. That was going to be pretty sweet to get the board full of 4 Thralls, but I guess it wasn't meant to be. Alright, so we can bring them online next turn if we want. I don't feel like it's super necessary to really rush this out. I'd kind of like to hang on to our imagined possibilities and our time in a bottle as a means to try and punch in an additional Thrall if we need to. Could look to just go for the predict this round, but we can't play a we can't play the 6th cost card before our dudes come online. So let's just go ahead and throw down Lissandra, get the additional Frozen Thrall ready to go. Starting to get a reasonably scary board. We're going to lose both of our champions, which is fine, but I think we should just go ahead and churn out our big blockers for the turn. Your combat just got fucked. LOL. Have y'all been watching for the rat on the board? I haven't been watching the board. We gotta keep note of the important things in life. I haven't seen it happen. So here, do we want to go ahead and churn out the 3rd Frozen Thrall? Like, we can. We can Curator onto the Frozen Thrall and then hit with the Sands of Time. I think that's just a little bit overboard. Maybe it's okay. Like, what's the worst that he's going to do? Just, like, play Viego? I don't think we care. Let's get the booms on board. Okay. Make all your dudes suck. Advance the landmark. And then let's get ourselves into the battle step. That's not gonna be good, dude. you're gonna run out of health. We have the ice shard in hand to shrink up his blockers if we need to. So see how he's only at neg 17? Once we play the ice shards, this will take him to neg 1. He's gonna need a quicksand now. GG. Getting wrecked and erect with old Bust over here. I love that saying. I don't know what's happened to it, if it's fallen out of favor. I don't know. It was a Hearthstone thing there for a while. Get wrecked and erect. I still like to use it on occasion. It's one of those things where you'll say it to the wife and you will garner an eye roll. But worth it every time, am I right? I'm right. I'm always right, so keep that in mind. Okay, and so with these starts with the Aurelion Soul deck, I do like to search for a bit of ramp. So I'm going to get rid of the She Who Wanders in the Aurelion Soul. I think we could probably realistically just play to a turn 5 Targon's Peak with the Divergent Paths, but I ultimately don't think that's going to be super necessary here. So the angle I'm going to take, we'll just go ahead and drop down Zoe. I like making this trade early on, just buy ourselves as much time as we can. We won't play anything on turn 2. Then on turn 3, we can play the Catalyst of the Aeons. We'll just be a little bit slower on the Targon's Peak, but we don't have any ramp cards as it is. Or we don't have any payoff cards, I should say. The downside to cycling away that Aurelion Soul. There we go. There's something big.
It can be undone.
All right, so now we're free to start churning through stuff. I'm looking to play both Faces of the Old Ones and Divergent Paths next turn, just to go ahead and get that ramp going. But Weirding Stones doesn't quite cut it. Sure. Bring in the aggro party.
In this timeline, we're sure to save Ikathia.
This is a deck to where the Targon's Peak can backfire a little bit. They do have a bit of top end in there, like the Invasive Hydrovine, and even Viego's a decent hit. I mean, 5 mana is nothing to scoff at in terms of mana savings, but I think we're looking pretty okay on this board. We're going to look to take 8 this turn. I'm not going to block with the Faces of the Old Ones. I don't want to lose out on the mana next turn. Like, if we block with Faces and then he plays a Vile Feast on it, it kind of sucks. Okay, so we got a couple really good options in hand. See if we can't spike one of our expensives for the turn. Nope. I should definitely be better at this deck where you just you hit the Aurelion Soul every time. But we're in a pretty good space now. I'm going to go ahead and heal with the Star Shaping. That'll let us pick up another expensive, and then we should be pretty close to spiking next turn. So I'm going to pick up the Great Beyond. This is a 9-coster. We should have 9 mana going into next turn. There is a chance that he can take it away. Maybe we actually just go for the Immortal Fire. So if we say, like, hit She Who Wanders off of our thing, then we can just play the Immortal Fire even if he kills one of our ramp cards here. And it's a pretty decent block for Viego. I think I'm actually on board with this over the slightly more expensive one. Okay. Cleaning out his hand, increasing his chances of hitting something decent. That would have been pretty disastrous if we had blocked with the Faces of the Old Ones on the previous turn. And we are missing. We got to get better at these. All right, so this is going to have to be a Harsh Winds. Can't risk falling down into the range of Atrocity. But we're pretty healthy. We have a handful of expensive shit. We should be pretty good for the next turn now. Okay. I think he's continuing to build up this Viego. He's a little scary, not big scary, but the important thing here is that the She Who Wanders obliterates. The She Who Wanders doesn't feed into his level up. A little scary here, though. A little scary. He's definitely got some big boys on board. What did we hit? We popped the Aurelion Soul. His hand is empty. I guess we know what we're in for now. It's a Waking Sands. Got it. So that's good. Our Aurelion Soul is most certainly going to flip here. It's good knowing that we have the knowledge that we can just attack with stuff. Like, I don't feel like we need to just go into the next turn. Well, now that we're picking up things like the Scourge, maybe we do. But I'm leaning towards just, like, attacking with Aurelion Soul. We know he can't do anything about it. Now, if we attack with both, how do we need to go about this? We would want it to be like this. So his Viego goes up to 10 attack when he blocks with the Invasive Hydrovine. but he only kills She Who Wanders instead of killing Aurelion's soul. I think this is fine. Okay. So we still get the flip. I think we're good. Give me some of them zero-cost Celestials, please.
Now they'll pay attention.
It's coming into battle. This is gonna flip his Viego, but I think we should be okay. This doesn't target, right? This isn't a circle ability, so his Viego is just gonna kill our Aurelion Soul next turn. It's all good. Wonder if he's got Atrocity in hand. It'd be interesting. But here we're gonna spell shield our Scourge. I would like him to be the one protected from vengeance if we can. Okay. So he's gonna ace our Aurelion Soul, but our board is pretty gigantic now. Moon Silver, nice. Just what I needed. Do we get out of this? Give our allies 2/2 and overwhelm. We can hook Viego out of combat. Well, he's at 10. It's a little scarier than I'd like it to be. We do still suffer from a vengeance problem, but still managed to take it down. Oof. GG. Good job, squad. Mark it a W for bust. Okay, so here we have to ban tokens. This is just a super easy ban. And I think we should be pretty decent against the rest of this stuff. All of our decks, I do believe, annihilate the Soraka deck. They do have that alternate win condition within the deck, but I have to assume that this matchup is okay. Never really sure what's coming out of this Gen deck. It's probably some kind of stun thing with Yasuo doing mid-rangey things. Sounds horrible against what we're doing, but the Azir Irelia is on that must-ban list. Okay, and then if we have to play a deck twice, I want it to be the ramp deck. It's certainly our worst deck. But right, taking a peek up here, our strongest match of Tryndamere against tokens is a big 31% win rate. Horrible. Horrible, I tell you. So let's see. This one is kind of interesting in two separate ways here. Number one, things like Weirding Stones aren't that safe. They do play the Challenger guy, which is kind of annoying. What I'm kind of looking towards here is I'm still going to hang on to the Weirding Stones, but I think I like this hand of both Divergent Paths and She Who Wanders. Like, She Who Wanders just obliterates their entire deck. And so if we can get her down early, the opponent should just have no chance to win the game. It's a pretty good spot to be in, right? God, do we even want to attack? That's such an odd space. It's like, do I even want this star chart? Because we have to risk that becoming a zero-cost spell. Huh. I don't know. That sounds pretty horrible. I'm sure there's a better pilot out there than me, but it's an interesting space if you just never attack there. I like this even less now. Like this isn't a sequence that I'm super familiar with, but if we were playing the ramp card, right? See, we're gonna ramp now. We could be ramping up to 5, and then next turn we could just divergent paths into the Targon's Peak. This one's on me for not being ultra familiar with this deck. I admit that this isn't one that I've played a ton of, but right, we should be getting the Targon's Peak down this turn. Interesting, he hooks Zoe. Okay, we're still pretty safe. I'm gonna go for the ramp. That's gonna get us to 7 mana next turn, and then we can still ramp plus do some other stuff. We can Peaks plus Targon's Peak. I guess I was like, I wonder if there's ever a world where we want to use the destroy a landmark on this Star Spring. Now that we pick up things like it that stairs, it's probably not super relevant. But you know, if he was really turbocharging through, would be something nice to get rid of. It's better than just losing the game. I'm going to star chart, see if we can't find something that we can just immediately play. Moon Silver will work, I think. Well, let's get the Serpent down. Just prevent a little bit of damage here. He doesn't have enough heal on the board for me to be particularly scared. And so we have a blocker, that's fine. Let's see what becomes cheap. Perfect. Feel the rush. Here comes the squad. Yeah, KDA noises. So he should have a pretty tough time taking either of these big boys off of the board. We can still drop the Avarosian Sentry. We can Star Shaping into what is hopefully going to be a flipped Aurelion Soul. And then we'll be able to play the Star Shaping unit for free. Okay. Still got my eyeballs on you, Star Spring. I don't think you're something to completely worry about, but what can he heal? Like 3, 4, 6? No, nowhere near healing for 21 this turn. Curious what he's got in store for us with this remaining 2 mana. Okay. Offer up a cupcake. Feels appropriate. Feels appropriate. Go ahead and just drop it in there. Targon Shield, okay. Got it. Astral Protection. Yeah, he's gonna survive all this damage. Okay. Did we doubt a Star Spring? I still gotta figure it out. He won't get like the big 10 heal until next turn. I don't think we care. Snatch up that Living Legends. It's pretty good with the Aurelion Soul flip. Now this one should be done. All right, let's drop that cool shit on the board. Actually spiked our Living Legends. Interesting.
Oh, I don't require
Okay, let's start doing stuff. All of our Celestials are free. So this is just going to be a matter of playing some cards and stuff, you know. Why not just come out here and play some cards and stuff?
Yeah, that's a pretty sparkle fly.
He's got another Star Spring, okay. Uh-oh. The Sketcher has been eaten. Now we're going to go ahead and just AoE his team. Oh, we can't. We can't play Ithid Stairs? Oh, what booty. What up, the Scourge? Haven't elicited a concession yet? There we go. All right. Good job, Asol. Good job. That one went about how I expected it to. They don't bring like the right kind of aggression to really come in and take us down, but it is nice to get a bit of experience with some of these decks we don't play all the time. You know, we're not playing Scouts today. I have some intent to play Scouts perhaps in the next video. I have kind of like a similar idea with just bringing. We did this maybe like 3 months ago when. Here, let's look for some ramp. But when the Sun Disc was at kind of like the height of its popularity, we ran into problems as to where the Victor decks and the Aphelios decks were just like super popular, and kind of the answer to having Victor and Aphelios be super popular is to just come out and play Stony Suppressor. And so we brought a kind of triple Stony Suppressor lineup to where we were trying to play Scouts, we were trying to play Poppy Rally, and we were trying to play something else. I don't fully remember, but now we do have access to playing things like a Bard deck and a separate Poppy deck. So you can play like Bard Galio and then Poppy X and then play Scouts or something. I feel like that's a fairly interesting lineup to be bringing to the table. But here, we're just going to continue on with the ramp. This is going completely fine. We're going to have a ton of mana next turn. Really looking to probably just play another Voices of the Old Ones. Right, we don't have the Targon's Peak. Opponent's doing nothing aggressive. And so, let's just get that full-on ramp going. Tryndamere, that was it? That was the only one in our top 5? Dang. Okay. All right, I'll tell you.
Time to make some coin. Through the coral.
Okay, but I'd like to put the 3 damage onto his Tom Kench so that we can try and Ithid Stares away his whole board. It's not guaranteed to work, given that they play a bunch of healing, defensive kind of cards, but it's worth going for. It's another play that's just going to give us a ton of time. Okay, even better.
Appetizers of brilliancy.
Is that really who we want to bring to the party? Maybe we just go ahead and drop Tryndamere. There's not a lot that they can do about him.
I smell a fight.
He says, bring it. I'm ready for it, Tryndamere. Okay. Pretty dangerous.
We shall
Uh-oh.
our own destiny.
Let's see if he opens. It's slightly problematic if he doesn't. Yeah. Rip Tryndamere. Does this give him a flip? Oh, she barely heals anything.
Let's talk about your dad.
Okay. Let's get out in front of it, I guess. Take that back. Let's get out in front of it as best as we can, I guess. Do we really want to go for the full It That Stares AoE? I'm leaning more towards playing Blighted Ravine plus Avalanche and then trying to It That Stares down the Tahm Kench next turn. But he has the Acquired Taste in hand. If he Acquired Tastes our Spiderling, then his Tahm Kench is going to flip. So we probably have to just come in and go ahead and deal the 3 damage. Are we setting ourselves up for this play to where we open with Avalanche next turn, but then we'd have to try an Atrocity down the Tahm Kench off our It That Stares? Oh man. Oh man. Okay. This is what we signed up for, I guess. He's going to get the opportunity to heal. And then we're going to try and respond with Atrocity. Hopefully 10 damage is enough to take down Tahm Kench. That's it? That's all you got? Okay. Sounds good to me. Laser beams. All right, so I think that leaves us back in this space to where we need to hit with our big booms. Have the potential for an Atrocity kill here. It's something you have to kind of worry about. They do play Star Shapings and they do play the cheap heal thing, the heal 2, but if he's just eating all the damage, this one's going to be done. Sweet. Let's see if he spends his mana. You have to ask yourself the question sometimes, do I want to go for style points and just kill with Blighted Ravine? Or do I feel more comfortable going for the Atrocity kill? I guess that question will never be answered. It's tough. It's tough. All right, GG. Okay. Bring the next battle upon us. I'm curious if Riot will ever turn this into tournament mode. It's like I'm always kind of hooked on the new game director coming in and then saying, we're going to focus on competitive. And I'm curious what that actually means. But coming into the matchups here, I don't remember how the Fizz Riven matchup actually looks. Do we have that on the list? Figure it's probably not that great. It's not. The highest win rate would be the Taliyah Lissandra at just under 50%. Bard Zed, and like I'm hoping that we can beat up on this Action Renekton deck, but Bard Zed might be kind of a problem as well. Let's see. I don't know if he's on our short list or not. No, he's been taken off, but we do struggle with a lot of the Bard decks, but I feel much worse against Fizz Riven, I think. They take out Taliyah Lissandra. We'll bring the ramp deck. Start off with the ramps again. But yeah, I feel like this Bard matchup is going to be a bit of a struggle. But then I think we can beat up on Action Sivir. The slight problem with Action Sivir is they do have all of their kind of like free challenges to pick on our ramp in the early game. And so we'll have to kind of watch out for that with our ramp deck here. But they don't have the tools to like really come out the gates and smash us in the same way that we would see out of a Zed deck. Okay, so I'm still gonna hold on to the faces, and then I think we just want to get rid of our other kind of cheapo plays here. It's like their units are like fairly well designed against what we're trying to do. I could see hanging on to Zoe just to try and fight off, say, like a Rockhopper. But I think we should get rid of the other two. We're not going to have the time to get two of these cheap plays down. Okay. And then a potential key thing here is we have, we're on the even attack tokens, and so on turn 2, we'll have the opportunity to play Faces of the Old Ones before he is able to play Rockhopper. Okay, nice work, Zoe. And it's an action. That's fine. I would love to have our Faces of the Old Ones stick around as long as possible. Ooh, are you going to survive a turn? Are you going to make it a turn, old friend? Okay, okay. That's how things get turned around. You just drop the Targon's Peak. Okay. That's a positive. He brings in Renekton, sure. We're ready with a Harsh Winds if we need to. Ideally, we'll get to drop She Who Wanders, which has just immediately become cheap. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, watch this, fam jam. Bring out a little bit of the emotage. LOL. Oh, feels good, doesn't it? Feels good. Did you all enjoy that? Did you enjoy that Harsh Winds play? Just bringing the fucking thunder. GG. All right, on to Tryndamere. We can't do those same kind of explosive plays here. We actually have to interact with our opponents a little bit with this deck, but you have to admit that was pretty fun, right? That was pretty fun. He brings out Bard Zed. All right, well, let's see. We're probably due for like a really early game chime, so let's hang on to this Blighted Ravine for some interactivity. See what else we can do along the way. This is one of these games where I feel like it's going to be like, LOL, here's a chime on a split unit on the first turn, and then a chime on Zed on the third turn. We're probably due. All right, so far so good. Interesting. Don't see the vortex too often. Let's go ahead and get this dum-dum out of here. We don't have too much going on with our hand. We can just get his stuff off of the board, lead in with Trundle. I think this is fine. It's tough to like really envision super strong Blighted Ravines. And so even if this like shuts down, say, a Bard from coming onto the board, if he had a bird, I mean, not Bard, bird, he would have just played it already anyways. But I like how that feels. We're lined up well to just get our Trundle going. Seems fine. Alright, he's loading up on the chimes now. But I think this Trundle should give us plenty of times, whether or not that's just getting the Ruination going or building up to the Tryndamere and to feel the rush. I think we're looking pretty strong here. The Withering Wail, probably not going to do that much, but these other cards are fine. Just a Bard. Interesting. It's like with the amount of chimes that he hitting 3 on that last turn, I'm really surprised we didn't see a better unit come down. Maybe he's just trying to soften the blow for his Zed or something. Wow. Okay.
Hang on, Buzzball.
Hey,
Let's move.
they look angry.
Interesting. Well, we're still getting to build up to a nice avalanche here. I don't really want to avalanche away our faces of the old ones, though. On to Tryndamere. Well, we might be able to do it next turn. We can see like how scary his board starts to get, and then decide if we want to play the Ruination or anything. Like, even if we just wait until next turn to play Ruination, that's still pretty decent. We do have to worry now about him having things like denies, but I think we're at least currently okay. And then now we're to the point that we have 8 mana, that we can get rid of the faces of the old ones and then still have plenty of mana for the next turn. 7 chimes. Oh man, I forgot he hit Meduli out of there. Oh boy.
Yordle here's with me.
And then he's still got deny mana. Oh, that's dirty. So we're looking to get 20'd by his elusives. All right, let's hope for the best. Yep. GG. Dang. That was an odd sequence. It feels like we were just the slightest bit short, but I feel like we got up to our big cards as quickly as we can. Like maybe we should have done a little bit more work to take down that small green glade duo, but that's tough. But alrighty, back to what we felt to be the decent matchup. We weren't expecting too much out of Bard Zed, but this is the one that we're expecting to be able to beat up on. Right. So let's hang on to our ramp spell. Look for some more early game interactivity. Did not find it. Little worrisome, little worrisome. Oh boy. We need something good, and we need it fast. The world's biggest turn 1 decision being made here. Do I play my Yordle Squire? Do I play my thing that generates Awaking Sands? Do I just pass? Do I drop my phone in the toilet? What do I do? So many choices, so many options. Looks like the phone in the toilet plan. Alright, action has come down.
How it is? In and out.
Alright, well this will be a pretty easy ramp turn, but still need to find a little bit of something to do. I don't really want to have to wait until turn 7 before we play any cards.
Gently, gently.
Okay. Big decisions. So many big decisions. Ultra competitive, hyper competitive Gauntlet that we're playing today. Practically the Pro Tour of Gauntlets is what we're dealing with right now. I wish they would. I don't know why they didn't just go with like the magic chess clock. The magic chess clock. I guess it's the chess clock, if you will. But it's kind of surprising that we're out here dealing with. I don't even know how the clock in this game works, But when his timer runs out, it doesn't mean that he's lost the game. So it's something weird. I think it has to do like the full timer has to run out. I don't know. But wow, that felt like a big pass. We're not actually playing any of these spells next turn, right? We can pretty safely, like Kindly Tavern Keeper. We can try and drop a Withering Whale this turn. Just kind of see what happens. Ooh, Papercraft Dragon.
How about another round?
Took it fair and square.
Sure. I don't think we're going to be able to stop the action from flipping. He's not, like, super scary right now, but it would be nice to come in and prevent that if we could. I mean, we can drop a Three Sisters into the action to prevent a bunch of damage, but shouldn't be super necessary. Is this where we go? This is where we just go, right? Let's get this out of here. Now we're more free to start dropping our Tryndameres and stuff next turn. Okay. The action upgrade's fine. The big kind of worrisome thing there was taking a bunch of Papercraft Dragon damage. He goes for the draw, he doesn't go for the immediate 5 damage. I hear you. So who's going to be our unit for the turn? We have the option to just, like, open with Ithit Stairs, which is, like, kind of okay. I would assume that he's probably going to have some kind of trick to protect his action with, so it's probably not going to get a kill. The other kind of option that we have is trying to bank 3 mana and then dropping a Feel the Rush on his turn. And the kind of downside to that is if he looks to make a Papercraft Dragon play, then we're going to find ourselves having to play Three Sisters. But I think that's probably pretty reasonable. I feel like adding a bunch of these like smaller units to the board really just kind of plays into what he wants to have happen. And I think if this turn goes with him just playing Papercraft Dragon onto action, then that's probably a pretty big win for us.
If it's made of sand, I can ride it.
So I guess the new question is, do we really feel safe playing Feel the Rush? Like, if he's able to, like, we're so far away from getting lethal, though. Right? He needs +4 attack onto action, and he needs to get both of our units out of combat. That sounds like a pretty big ask. Like, I don't care if he kills our units here and, like, invests a bunch of cards in it. It's just, like, as long as we don't die, then this turn's going to be completely fine. Right? Like, if he just hooks our Trundle, and then at the end of the day, we're just hanging out with our 10/10 Tryndamere, that feels like a pretty good turn.
Sand and trouble far as the eye can see.
Okay. Rip Trundle. You tried, dude. You tried. It'd feel much nicer if we could just pull off a Battle Fury kill here. Right? That's what life should always be about, is just pulling off a nice Battle Fury kill. Brings in Renekton, that's okay. I'm looking to Ithit Stairs away this Warlord's Horde. It's starting to look fairly scary. But if he has like any targetable, then it's just not going to work. But does the 3 damage to units actually do anything here? Kills off the Rockhopper? I think this is fine either way. Like, he probably wants to be Papercraft Dragoning as Renekton, and use that as the means to flip the Warlord's Horde. Now if we make him kind of like proactively play like a Ruthless Predator or something, I think that's kind of a win. But I suspect that he's going to be popping this Warlord's Horde, and this is going to be an unsuccessful Destructive Ray, but it still plays into what we're trying to have the turn do nicely. He's going to have to invest in his units, right? We're going to hook his Ruin Runner with the Ithit Stairs. Interesting choice on the Pokey Stick. Why wouldn't you just send it to face? But we have a big attack this turn now. He has to block our Tryndamere. It gets really scary. We have 2 Three Sisters for the next turn. I think things are looking okay. How much Renekton are we gonna have to deal with? We can kind of Battle Fury to a degree. We can Three Sisters our own units if we need to, but I mean we have the mana to double Flash Freeze him if we need to. I think that's the key out of this. We can pop the Spell Shield and not be too scared. A little scary though. A little scary. I don't want to call our shot too soon. I don't really know what this guy's playing with here, but I think we might be okay. But I think he has to be in that spot where he's like, well, I'll just die to Atrocity, right? Like whatever. I'm not gonna risk my Renekton. It seems like he really needs to be in this space to where he's looking to put the Papercraft Dragon onto his Renekton, hook the Renekton into our Ice Pillar, and then have like a 10-10, whatever he is, Renekton ready to try and take down through the Ice Pillar. But interesting, now that he played that Rockhopper instead of just putting Papercraft Dragon on his Renekton, it's going to give us time to play Withering Wail next turn if we want. I'm not entirely sold on that being what we should do, because he can like pivot out of going big with Renekton. But we do have that option now. He doesn't have any kind of like open lethal coming at us. He can't hit with the Renekton and be like, LOL, here's three spells. Let's wait till that Papercraft comes down. Like, once he spends the full 5 mana to load up Renekton, I think we're pretty safe at this point. Or is there even any real reason to risk it? Probably not. Let's just pass. We'll play it safe with our burst spells. Like, I'm not entirely sure what dumb shit's going to be coming down here. And so, this is the kind of guaranteed safe play, and using the 2 Three Sisters to double Flash Freeze the Renekton. It's a lot of damage coming in. Cool. Looks like we're taking 0. I did the mathematics on that turn. 0 damage incoming. No, let's get the full bank here. There's no reason to drop the faces. Now we're just gonna feel the rush. He can like pop through a feel the rush with a Rite of Negation. Wouldn't surprise me to see this deck playing something like Rite of Negation, but we have a couple of angles to get out of this as it is. We can say he has Rite of Negation to counter our feel the rush. We can hook his Renekton with our Ice Pillar or with our Ith That Stares, and then still make him use one of these 1-drop units to block our Tryndamere with. But looks like our spell was successful. Did we take? I thought we took the drop the phone in the toilet play. one of the world's strongest plays. Drop the phone in the toilet. Let's hook Renekton into Tryndamere in case he has some kind of combat trick to try and get out of this. Gonna have a quicksand. Yeah. All the quicksands. Uh-oh. That's scary. Did we end up losing this one? It's going to be big old Renekton damage coming in. I think we might have lost this one. Uh-oh. Action's not scary. He doesn't have Overwhelm. It's the Renekton that's the problem. LOL. Yes, that's what you get for taking forever. It is interesting. We could technically try, and I'd feel a little bit better if we could Withering Wail out of this as well, but... Alright, so let's see if he's got Rite of Negations in this deck. Nope. GG. Got him. It makes me want to circle back to that previous turn and think if we should have perhaps Withering Wailed there. Like in hindsight, that would be the way to do it. It's like I'm not familiar enough with what dumb cards they're playing in terms of being able to protect. Like, are we going to have to see a Rite of Negation? Are we going to have to see a Friendship? How common are these spell shield generating cards in a deck like that? Now, I guess the way that to kind of circle back to that turn would have been to say, okay, well, in the presence of Quicksand, all of these 1 health units are going to be a real problem. And so maybe we should have played the Withering Wail and just risked the possibility of him having another spell shield card because they aren't that common, right? There's a limit to how much stuff you can really be playing. But he did also play Conchologist, and so Conchologist kind of throws in the wild card of them realistically being able to have anything. But even with the concept of Conchologist being there, I think on that previous turn where we went for the double 3 sisters, because we knew that once he's in combat he can't respond with more spell shields. Maybe that would have just been better served as playing a Withering Wail, but I don't remember how much mana he had. You could have ran into, again, that same problem where if he has the Rite of Negation and counters our Withering Wail, then we don't have enough to prevent the Renekton kill, unless we had enough in the means of switching to using Fury of the North to prevent 4 damage. Player better than me can figure it out. Sit there and do the finger math and stuff. Figure out the best path to victory there. Players such as myself, though, I knew. I had it in my head. I analyzed it. I said, deck, what is the top card going to be? It's going to be Atrocity. And so I set it up with that in mind. You didn't see it happening. I had it all running through here. Playing fucking 4D chess out here, figuring out how to get the Atrocity kills. It's easy. Easy peasy. All right. Our final battle opponent has been found. He is playing a lot of reasonably terrible matchups. I know the Lucian Hecarim matchup is terrible. if you want to take a peek at it, it is. Is it not? I thought it was up here near the top. It's just like all of these Hecarim decks are terrible. Here's one where we can't eclipse 33% win rates. Hecarim Azir looks pretty terrible as well. I think we're just going to have to hope that we can beat this Aurelion Soul deck twice. I don't know what he's doing with it. It doesn't feel great taking ramp decks into Aurelion Soul, but we're in like a real bind seeing a lineup like this turn up. Let's see. I think we just have to ban. Well, I'm gonna ban out the Hecarim. This is tough. I'm kind of like hoping that given that he has Zed and Irelias in this deck, that we might be able to take advantage of some of our AoEs and just have some kind of reasonable turn happen. But this is pretty disastrous. All right. So we'll hang on to our Blighted Ravine. Try and get this Frozen Thrall on board as quickly as we can. See if we can survive the onslaught here. I'm gonna double up on the Thralls here. Right, just having one on board isn't enough, especially as these decks play a bunch of bounce spells. I think we need to have 2 on board, and then we can look to start churning things down. Do we go for the third one now that we've picked up the Sands of Time? That's interesting. Okay, I'm gonna block both Living Shadows on this turn though. We're just like 100% playing Blighted Ravine next turn, and so might as well go ahead and get our blocks in. That does leave us in a spot here to where we can start to get our big boys online, right? We play the Blighted Ravine here. Who knows whether or not he's going to add any cards to the board. We'll have the Sands of Time for next turn. And so we having a pretty reasonable draw against this deck. Can bring out the Azir. Okay, we'll let him get into combat first.
They follow the wrong master.
Yeah. They still get the Zed flips out of this. This shit's annoying. Uh-oh. He's dropping emotes on us already. That can't be good. That can't be good. Okay, so we can get 2 at least down next turn, right? The Frozen Thrall will go to 1. We can Clockwork Curator the other Frozen Thrall down to 1, get 2 onto board with Imagined Possibilities. It does have me like slightly worried about getting popped by a bounce spell when we do have the Rite of Negation in hand, but I think we just have to accept that. The old Azir flip. Yeah, we're probably pretty done for this game. I wonder though, I mean, we may find ourselves in a space to where he just doesn't have the bounce spell. Say he doesn't have the Blade Dance bounce. And then we get to, he plays a card, we get to flash freeze Zed next turn. Maybe. I mean, maybe something comes out of it, but I don't think we have the chance to wait. We have to get our attacks in now. Should warrant at least one block as well.
That's my cue.
Okay. So not bad, not bad. The we didn't lose any frozen thralls that turn, which is the important thing. That feels pretty good. Now, ideally, we're going to get to drop a Three Sisters onto Zed.
Mercy for those who desecrate our home.
They will find our land do not take well to intruders.
Is that what we're worried about, though? I mean, with the flipped Taliyah, we're going to have tough on our Nexus. That just prevents so much damage. How much is this? Like 4, 7, 8, 9? So we give up on the Three Sisters, say, hey, I'm just going to block Zed with our Frozen Thralls. Okay. Not super interested in any of these. We'll just pick up the Preservarium here. Okay, okay. So now, if he tries to play Bounce Spell on us, we have the mana for Rite of Negation. It might be okay here. He's saying, "Oh shit, Bust! You brought the hammer down." Right, he can attack with 6 units now. We can block 5. We're not taking that much damage. Okay. Is this dum-dum gonna flip? He's gonna get the Irelia flip though for the Blade Surge. That's a little scarier, but like let's see what the maximum damage he can deal is, right? Irelia's 5. Let's say he comes in for 11 total. Sure. Something like this. I don't want him taking down the Frozen Thrall. Doesn't matter how he blocks elsewhere. He can't kill our big frozen things. Yeah, looks good. Taliyah now takes down Lissandra. That's fine. Or not Taliyah, Irelia. But cool. Let's see if it's been done. Gotta drop an emote. This is definitely an emote turn. I don't know how you feel about it. I'm pretty sure it's an emote turn. He hasn't given up yet.
Your rhythm's off. Hold up.
Game says we're coming in for neg 18. Opponent's currently at 11. That's pretty good. I did the mathematics on that. That's enough for a win. Saying that's not the way it's supposed to go. This is supposed to be a free win. Oh, we locked you up in the plastic prison cell. That's the way they do Magneto and the X-Men, right? They put him in that like plastic prison cell because he does everything with the powers of metal. I really miss the likes of the X-Men. I was hoping that they would get more of like a reboot with the release of the Avengers, and then I was like, I'm pretty sure that like. I thought like Wolverine was an Avenger. I thought like portions of the X-Men characters were actually Avengers. I don't know. I didn't read comic books or anything growing up, but I was kind of like familiar with a few of the various video games and then in the culture you kind of run into some of that stuff. But I thought that the X-Men kind of hung out with the Avengers, and there was some intermingling between the two. But man, we're up against what looks to be like a. I think we have to keep a hand like this, right? This is like the opportunity to drop She Who Wanders on them, so huge. But we have the turn 4 peak with 10 drops. They shouldn't have too much interactivity, right? There's no real challengers coming out of Targon. Okay. Was not expecting faded units to come at us. You got the totes magoats? Nope. All right. Seems like things have sequenced well for us. Ooh, just 1 damage. Okay. All right. Let's get that cool shit going.
Peace is a trail painted with blood.
Time for emotes. Shuffle it up, TF. Let's get our deck on the good side, Steve.
Oracle, tell me of
Okay.
my death.
I see two figures dancing for
Not a big deal. You've done your work, Weirding Stones. Ah, the She Who Wanders. Nice. Nice. Boom. Laser beam. You can protect the Saga Seeker, right? You can play a spell, give it a faded, but this should be pretty good for the rest of the way. Now, I'm curious to like what degree this guy's actually playing Aurelion Souls, and like how many cards we're going to end up cutting out of hand and stuff here. He's got 4 cards in hand still. Interesting. Well, let's go in. Everybody gets to play free cards. You get a free card. You get a free card. Oh, he's going to have Aurelion Soul now. That's for certain. He's going to be chimed up a little bit. Oh, man. Oh, man. All right. RA Soul on board. Leaning towards just going for the Scourge. Just the most expensive, highest impact one that we have here. I think that's okay. We're also going to be looking to Star Shape this turn. Just as a means to get another expensive card in hand. All right, he Targon's Peak to Wounded White Flame. Not that intimidating.
Together, stranger.
And it should be pretty tough for him to get up to 10 attack with this dum-dum. Like, just Targon doesn't have a huge selection of combat tricks. He's not playing Demacia in here, so it's very tough for him to get big interactivity onto our units. And Envolus Fox. So, yeah, let's heal self, I guess. There's the Living Legends for our flipped Aurelion Soul. Excellent.
I'm ready to play, pop, and knock over some cups.
All right. Looks good to me. We got through that one turn we needed. Well, I guess it wasn't guaranteed for him to draw Aurelion Soul, right? If he's playing Envolus Vox and Wounded White Flame, but anyway, turned out okay. Things are looking pretty good now. Things are looking good. Gonna have this sweet harsh winds here. We're gonna play out our whole hand. Then we'll play the Living Legends. Get an additional boost for the turn. Discard a card, Catalyst of Aeons. Don't really care about any of these. We'll pick up the Equinox just because we know we can cast it. He's out of manas. This game should be done. I feel like I tried to call my shot a little bit too early, but I feel pretty good about us picking up 9 Celestial cards and then being able to end this game. Is he not going to attack? I'm going to get rid of the harsh winds as well. Alright, so what else are we bringing to the party? I see a Great Beyond in here. That sounds delightful. Get some Immortal Fires down. This is going to be pretty done for. Looks good to me. Bring out an Obliterate. Yeah, that's the stuff. That's the prom glory right there, my boys. And so, interesting set of games. And so, again, as we had kind of spent a long time talking about that concept of the long tail, and then trying to pick off the top decks of the format. As we pull our spreadsheet thing back up, the big decks of the format we're trying to target are here. We have this Annie Twisted Fate, this collection here at the top. This is the big ones, right? We're trying to target down this section of where I just marked in blue. And then we're just trying to avoid Annie, Jen, Ari, Bard, and tokens with the idea that if we play against a lineup containing these decks, they hopefully only play one copy of it. And that's, not what happened whatsoever. I know these are still like pretty small sample size, right? We're only playing 4 matches, but whenever you do go through 4 matches and you see 0 copies of Annie Twisted Fate Nami, Heimerdinger Jace, any of the Aphelios decks, any of the Nasus decks, like it's just it makes me ultimately worry. And so it's like I have kind of 2 ideas with this. The first one is as we get into more competitive landscapes, as we land into a tournament like seasonals, we should see more of these decks. We should see more of the things we're targeting. We're not going to run into nearly as much things like double striking Renekton's or the decks like that. The really kind of further off meta decks. And so the percentages should shoot up, but as we've kind of historically seen, even talking back to last seasonals, Yuumi Pantheon only took up 25% of the meta. So if you're trying to say focus on even if you can pull off one of those decks 75% of the time, right, then you're still looking to be between 2 and 4 matches to where you just don't play any of those decks. But the kind of second piece to it was if you don't feel really confident in your abilities, I understand where my place in the rankings are, right? If for the most part, I'm going to hang out at the bottom end of Mythic. I think if I tried really hard and didn't try to play different decks every day of the week, I could push into kind of the mid-range. If things are going pretty well, I can break into the top 100, but I'm never going to be one of these people sitting inside the top 10. And so for me to approach an event like seasonals, I do have to have a lot of luck go my way if we want to go and make the top cut. And so that's one of the spaces where I could actually see a lineup like this being quite strong. Is if you just say okay, well, I really need things to go right on my day for me to come in and make a real impact in this event. I can play one of these really super high variance lineups, and if things go my way, then awesome. My lottery ticket scratched off well, and if they didn't, then I don't feel super confident in playing a bunch of 55-45 matchups against the best in the world all day. And so I think that's another kind of interesting concept to take. If you really sit down and accept what your skill level is, you set your ego aside and say, for me to do well today, I have to have a lot of things go right. And I'm going to play this really high variance strategy and just hope for the best. And then maybe you'll have some matchups like we had here to where we played against tokens and then we actually beat it. And so, you have to have things like that go right and go well. We aren't one of these Mage and Bays or Who Am I's or whatever that it can really piece up the top end of the ladder and the top end of these tournament scenarios. But, in terms of running these in Gauntlet, do I suggest a lineup like this? Absolutely not. We were able to get the 4 victories, but it didn't come easy, and it's going to be pretty tough facing against all of the various rando off-meta decks that face very well into things like Ramp Aurelion Soul. And so, run it at your own risk. That's all on you. But that is going to do it for us today. I hope everyone enjoyed the video. You learned how to ramp it up a little bit better. I hope your Ravines were as blighted as they should be. I hope you maybe learned a thing or two along the way and had a good time watching. This is Bust, and we thank you for being here.